Dzień dobry wszystkim. Hello and welcome to this FiCompass Jam Session podcast episode. My name is Zurek and I am a financial instruments advisor at the European Investment Bank. Today, we are exploring how financial instruments supported by the European Regional Development Fund, the ERDF, are driving renewable energy investments in Poland with a special focus on Pomorskie and its Renewable Energy Sources Loan Fund, RES Loan in short, or Pożyczkowy in Polish. I am delighted to be joined today by a great panel of guests. Kornelia Milczarek, Marshal Office of the Pomorskie Voivodeship, Joanna Protasiewicz from the Pomorskie Loan Fund, Ewelina Żaguń from the Pomorskie Development Fund, and Andrzej Urbanik from the European Commission DG REGIO. Welcome. And can you briefly introduce yourselves and explain the role of your institutions?
Thank you, Anna. Greetings from Gdańsk. It is great to be here with you. As you mentioned, I am from the Marshal's Office of the Pomorskie Voivodeship and I represent the managing authority. Our main responsibility is to implement the regional program. Of course, we also closely cooperate with the holding fund managers and the financial intermediaries. As we discussed today, it is crucial to have two programming periods in mind, the previous 2014-2020 and the current one 2021-2027. Within the previous programming period, in cooperation with the European Investment Bank, in Pomorskie, we implemented 3 loan instruments in the area of urban renewable, energy efficiency in housing, and of course, renewable energy sources. Today, we will focus on the renewable energy sources loan, which was available in the 2014-2020 programming period and is also available in the current one, but in a slightly modified form.
Thank you very much. Joanna, over to you.
Hello, also from my side, and thank you for the invitation. I represent Pomeranian Loan Fund, PFP in short. It's a public non-commercial financial institution that efficiently implements financial instruments. What does it mean in practice? We directly provide tailor-made financial products to the final recipients, mostly SMEs in Pomorskie region. Our leading shareholder is the Pomeranian Voivodeship. We have been operating on the regional market since 2004. And today we are one of the largest financial intermediaries in Pomorskie, or referring to the right terminology, institutions strong involved in specific funds, implementation and management. And the same role we played in the project RES Loan in the 2014-2020 programming period. That means we transferred funds to final recipients in Pomorskie in the form of RES loans.
Thank you very much. And Ewelina, over to you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to join this conversation. I represent Pomorskie Development Funds. It's a fund supporting SMEs and municipal governments by providing financial instruments. The PFR was established in 2015 at the initiative of the Pomorskie Voivodeship self-government, primarily to manage the funds returned from financial instruments that were implemented under the 2007-2013 regional program. In the 2014-2020 perspective, we started for the first time implementing financial instruments in the role of fund of funds manager, but only for the one financial product in one project. In the current perspective, we are implementing 4 projects. Among other things, the RES loan.
Super, thank you very much. Very clear. And Andrzej, over to you.
Hello, I will be very short. I work at the European Commission in Directorate General for Regional and Urban Policy, specifically for the financial instruments unit, where I'm supervising the implementation of financial instruments in Poland, not only in Pomorskie.
So, let's get started. Andrzej, I'd like to begin by asking you to set the scene for our listeners. What main market failures in the renewable energy sector do you see overall in Poland? Why is there a need for public intervention? And how are financial instruments addressing these financing gaps?
Poland and Europe as a whole desperately needs more investments in the renewable energy sector for several reasons. First of all, in order to reduce CO2 emissions generated from the fossil fuels. As you know, this is important to eliminate all harmful effects of climate changes on our societies and economies. Secondly, renewable investments are also important in the context of energy security, especially after Russia's aggression against Ukraine, that simply speaking questioned Europe's dependence on imported fossil fuels. The reality is that relying so heavily on fossil fuels, whether from Russia or elsewhere, can't give us energy security and prosperity Europe needs. It leaves us incredibly vulnerable to international market prices volatility and pressure from external actors. Domestic renewables reduce this dependence and stabilize energy prices in the long term. And like European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said, as our energy dependency on fossil fuel goes down, our energy security goes up. Furthermore, RES deployment is crucial for addressing the problem of air pollution, which remains a major public health challenge in many regions in Poland, including some cities in Pomorskie, such as Starogard Gdański, Kościerzyna. Although, on average, the air quality in Pomorskie is much better when compared to southern regions in Poland. And finally, I would like to say that affordable and predictable energy prices support competitiveness. I mean that companies with access to low and stable energy prices are on average more innovative, more productive, and on top, more resilient to external shocks.
Thank you, Andrzej. You raised a number of really important topics, both geopolitical but also climate-related. And Kornelia, now over to you. Tell us a little bit about your region and how Andrzej's synopsis corresponds to your very region.
Well, it corresponds with Pomorskie perfectly, especially when it comes to understanding the importance of energy security and access to clean energy. In Pomorskie, we have very good natural conditions for the development of renewable energy sources, such as wind, as we are one of the Baltic regions of Poland. Pomorskie has experienced a consistent increase in the percentage of energy derived from RES. Our region's infrastructure, including the outer port of Gdańsk and service ports, supports the development of offshore wind farms, which are especially important for us nowadays. There's also a growing interest in energy self-sufficiency among consumers, evident in the rising adoption of RES micro-installations. It is worth mentioning that the share of energy production from renewables consistently exceeds the national average, which has experienced a significant rise, increasing from only 2% in 2004 to 31% by 2025. The previous financial perspective saw a significant shift towards expanding RES with public funds, and it was strongly underlined in the ex-ante assessment for 2014-2020, which recommended the implementation of preferential loans in this area.
Thank you, Kornelia. I would now like to turn to Joanna from the Pomorskie Loan Fund. How did the RES loan work in practice for final recipients?
Let me briefly say how did it happen that we started implementing the RES loan from the previous programming period. So PFP was selected by EIB through direct negotiations in 2019. At that time, the RES market in Poland was highly unregulated. RES technologies were little known and seemed expensive. This may have been the reason why financial institutions were not interested in implementing a new instrument or another instrument in the RES sector. Anyway, we took the challenge. I use the word challenge because at the time PFP possessed the necessary expertise and experience in handling financial instruments, but we had relatively limited knowledge of the renewable energy market. That's why we invited the Baltic Energy Conservation Agency to collaborate with us. They provided technical know-how to the project, especially by the technical assessment of the application. PFP did not introduce any rules for shaping the structure of final recipients. The loan parameters were very flexible, and we wanted to encourage potential beneficiaries, various entities, excluding individuals, to participate in the energy transition in Pomorskie. RES loan was support the production and distribution of energy from all renewable sources: biogas, biomass, solar and water energy, except wind. Supported projects were innovative with the highest environmental impact, and it was very important, required to comply with municipality level air quality programs. As you can see, we leverage the flexibility of financial instrument to support the widest possible group of borrowers and a wide variety of projects. Thanks to this, it was possible to obtain ecological, financial and social benefits for the region, enabling additional capacity to generate renewable energy, reduction of greenhouse gas emission, and of course, energy security, energy independence, and just access to clean energy.
Thank you very much, Joanna. We also encourage all our listeners to read the case study about the RES loan in Pomorskie for more details. We will link this publication in the transcript of this podcast episode. And Joanna, can you tell us what were the key parameters of the 2014-2020 RES loan and what made the loan attractive for final recipients?
Of course, PFP designed flexible and attractive parameters for financing the investment, but of course the objectives of the project must be compared with the assumptions of the investment strategy of the managing authority. In my opinion, simplicity and flexibility make the RES loan attractive for final recipients. And I'm sure my colleagues will agree with me. These parameters that can be achieved in the case of financial instruments, not grants. What were the key parameters? Variable means adjusted to the individual project's loan values, variable grace periods and repayment periods. A second, relatively straightforward criteria for securing preferential interest rates, lower than market conditions, waiver of transaction fees and different public aid forms. It was, of course, necessary by such wide range of final recipients. That's why we managed to have in our lending portfolio various project sizes implemented by different final recipients. Installation for own use, heat pumps, biogas installation, but large-scale projects like PV farms. They are implemented by SMEs, energy producers, special purpose vehicles or local government units, organizations, institutions, agriculture. Of course, investor had to meet the criteria, generally European Union regulations. These all projects contributed to the increase of RES power capacity installed in Pomorskie, which brought economic, social and environmental benefit for our region.
Thank you very much. So I take notes. Keep it simple and flexible.
Yes, exactly.
Now, maybe Kornelia and Joanna, both, can you tell us a little bit more about the impact of the instrument on the ground? So maybe you have some examples of final recipients that you supported through the instrument, some interesting project.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I would like to talk about an interesting investment carried out by the owner of Z Eco Enterprise, Mr. Tomasz Cegiełka. This enterprise deals with the trade and sale of waste to biogas plants, and the owner decided to invest in his own biogas plant. It is situated in Malbork district in the eastern part of Pomorskie. It was launched in the fourth quarter of 2018, and at the end of 2019 until the beginning of 2021, it was financed from the RES loan. The investment involved the construction of the entire renewable energy system in the form of the agricultural biogas plant. The project includes the construction of a system of the tanks, the engine room with a control room, substation, and also associated infrastructure. The result of the project is the cogeneration unit producing electricity and heat. The installation uses biogas, contributing to the production of renewable energy and improving the CO2 emissions balance. Estimated annual decrease in greenhouse gas emissions was 3.2 thousand tons of CO2 equivalent. The generated electricity is used for the entrepreneur's own needs and supplied to the operator's network. The loan amount at yesterday's euro exchange rate is about 1 million euro. It was taken out for 15 years with fixed preferential interest rate. It is one of the few biogas plants co-financed by the regional program and the only one financed in a repayable form.
Super. And from your perspective, Joanna, any project that stood out?
I will present a small project to illustrate the diversity of the portfolio. So, municipal company of the one of community in Pomorskie deals with municipal services, water supplies, sewage disposal and housing management, among other services. To reduce costs, heating and electricity, the company implemented two investments for its own needs. The first involved the installation of PV system and heat pump in a social and residential building, providing eco-friendly electricity and heating. And the second involved the installation of a PV system for the water intake station. Loan value about 10,000 euro, a preferential rate lower than market conditions, 0.25%, long repayment period, 6 months grace period. It was enough time for both project implementation. This is an interesting case that shows how often the ecological and economic benefits will additionally benefit the local community.
These are really great examples, both big and small, as you mentioned. Cornelia, can you tell us a bit about the overall achievements of the 2014-2020 ERDF RES loan? And maybe there was something specific that surprised you, in particular, in the course of implementation of this financial instrument?
Overall, we are very happy with the results. The financial instrument has been fully absorbed through 137 loan agreements with total value of 32 million euro. And the supported projects included varied mix of investments ranging in size from 6,000 euro to even 5 million euro and catered for various types of final recipients, including micro enterprises, SMEs, large enterprises, public entities, associations, and many others, as also Joanna has already mentioned. Micro enterprises received the most of the loans, almost half of them. Then they are followed by small and medium enterprises and large enterprises. The final recipients are spread across a variety of sectors, including manufacturing, agriculture, forestry, fishing, wholesale and retail trade, accommodation and food service, and I can mention many more sectors. This variety highlights the diverse range of industries benefiting from the loans and the universality of this product. This was what made it advantageous. The achievement of the RES loan is evidenced by the increase in installed capacity in RES sources of 40 megawatts within the region. The total reduction of greenhouse gas emission is equivalent to over 29,000 tons of CO2 per year. It is surprising how these data are compared to information about the capacity of conventional power plants in the region and country. For example, Gdynia's new integrated heat and power plant will have a capacity of 42 megawatts. Some industrial combined heat and power plants in Lower Silesia have the capacity of 46 megawatts each. Of course, the role in the energetic system is different from that of renewable energy capacity, but it is worth emphasizing that since 2019, there has been a significant development of resources in Pomorskie, thanks to that funds that will be returned and will continue to support the development of the region.
First of all, congratulations for the full absorption of the resources. It is really impressive. And now a question to all of you. How do you see the key success factors for the 2014-2020 ERDF RES loan in Pomorskie?
Well, several success factors can be pointed out here. Joanna has already talked about a few of them. But I will try to keep it short. Firstly, the loan had very attractive interest rate. The interest rate of 0.5% was offered to meeting one preference criterion and the 0.25% for meeting 2 or 3 criteria. It was particularly beneficial from 2022 as commercial rates increased in Poland at that time. The second factor is that the loan provided great financial flexibility. It featured a long repayment period, up to 15 years, a substantial maximal loan amount of €3.5 million with no prescribed minimum. The extended withdrawal period was up to 24 months, and it was combined with no commissions or fees for loan processing. The third factor, it is the wide range of eligible final recipients and projects. The RES loan was designed to address the needs of the variety of stakeholders, both from private and public sectors. It supported a really broad spectrum of projects, such as generating heat from solar, geothermal, biomass, biogas, and hydropower. The loan could be used for the broad purpose of financing projects in the area of installations generating energy from renewable sources. Those projects should have been cost-effective and rational in terms of the assumed ecological effect. And the fourth factor, but not the least, it is of course the great role of the PFP's staff and their deep understanding of the regional market and establishing the professional support network for the applicants.
So some warm words to PFP. So Joanna, maybe we can continue with you.
Thank you very much for the warm words. In this case, cooperation between all institutions involved in implementing the instrument was of great importance. I mean, managing authority, AIB as FOFI manager and PFP as a local loan fund. We identified potential final recipients, supported them along the way, kind of the personal touch. And as the institution close to the market, we reported to AIB about growing expectations for increased allocation of sources. And these expectations were met. And I'm sure this is another side of the success. And we hope that in the current perspective, where we are also implementing the RES loan, the effects of the support will be significant for the region, especially since the circumstances of the renewable energy market in Pomorskie have really changed.
Thank you very much, Joanna. And Andrzej, over to you.
Let me be a bit provocative. The real success of the Pomorskie loan fund, in my opinion, starts with the fact that the managing authority decided not to play it safe. So instead of relying on grants, it deliberately chose to deploy financial instruments. And that choice really matters in a sector where investment needs massively outweigh public resources. Secondly, this case challenges a common myth that regional instruments are too small to make a difference. Pomorskie shows the opposite. When you have a strong regional intermediary like Pomorskie Fundusz, Pożyczkowy, PFP, with real boots on the ground, not just in the capital of the region, but across the whole region, you can reach investors that national schemes often miss. This is also a clear example of how regional and national financial instruments can complement each other, especially in areas like renewables, where the financing gap is huge. And the last provocative point, generic financial products don't work in the energy transition. This one did because it was tailor-made.
Yes, really great points. And once again, congratulations to the region not to play it safe and to be open-minded and to decide to deploy financial instruments for this new for them area. And Ewelina, maybe from your perspective, do you have maybe some key success factors you would like to share?
Maybe it's obvious, but it's important. The previous perspective has proven that it's reasonable and effective to finance projects related to renewable energy sources through financial instruments. The grant were not the only form of funding that guaranteed success. The RES loan offer came at the time characterized by a high demand for this kind of investment. The specific nature of the financial product allowed for quick project implementation and efficient startup of installations to produce energy.
Let's turn now to the 2021-27 programming period. Did the need for more renewable energy investments in the Pomorskie region remain? And have the needs maybe changed in any way? And how are the current programs and financial instruments under these programs addressing them? Let's start with the global view on Poland, Andrzej.
Unfortunately, what is happening in Pomorskie is not yet the norm in Europe. And if we are serious about the energy transition, we need many more Pomorskies, and we need to act fast. The funding gap remains huge, and public funding alone is not enough, as we know. And this mismatch between the needs and available public funding underlines the critical role of private capital, mobilized through financial instruments such as loans and guarantees, which allow us to scale up investments and reuse funds over time. And the good news, the lessons from 2014, 2020 and successful regional examples like Pomorskie show us that well-designed instruments paired with technical support and local knowledge really work. The challenge now is to scale them up quickly across all of Poland and across all of Europe.
Thank you very much. And Kornelia, from the perspective of Pomorskie.
I totally agree with Andrzej diagnosis. In the current programming period, we continue the regional repayable support in the area of RES development because we see that there are still the needs in the region. The reflows from the RES loan 2014-2020, like most of the funds from other financial instruments, have been transferred to the Pomorskie Development Fund for use in accordance with the CPR regulations. And now I would like to shed some light on the implementation model. It is quite similar as it was in 2014-2020. We cooperate with the manager of the holding fund, which on the basis on public procurement selects financing partners, so-called bodies implementing specific fund. Pomorskie Development Fund acts as the manager and the Pomorskie Loan Fund acts as the financing partner.
Thank you very much. And Ewelina, I understand that the Pomorskie Development Fund plays a significant role. Can you tell us a little bit from your point of view?
Yes, thank you. I would like to say something more about involvement of the PFR in current perspective. As I mentioned at the beginning, in the previous perspective, PFR was involved for the first time in implementing as the fund of funds manager, but only in a single product. In the current perspective, we are already implementing 4 projects that include 4 financial instruments related to SME support, the thermomodernization loan, the eco loan for SMEs and the RES loan. All reflows from both perspectives are reinvested in the market in accordance with the original objectives of the regional programs. It's very important. The PFR conducts an active investment policy in line with the development goals of the Pomorskie Voivodeship, which are also outlined in the Pomorskie Voivodeship development strategy. These funds serve the long-term development objectives of our region.
Thank you, Ewelina. And can you tell us a little bit about the interest from final recipients in the financial instrument? Does it remain high?
Yes. Interest from final recipients in the current instrument is still significant, although the market-related example to photovoltaic installations has changed. We currently have 20 investments in the financial product portfolio for almost 5.5 million euros. The RES loan is currently being implemented by 3 financial intermediaries, one of which is, of course, the Pomorskie Loan Fund. And currently, in the investment strategy, we have 23 billion euros allocated for the RES loan.
Thank you very much, Ewelina. And are there any key differences compared to the 2014-2020 RES loan?
Yes, some of them was mentioned by Kornelia, but I think it's interesting to add that when it comes to comparing both financial products, the parameters of both loans are quite similar. But there are some differences. The RES loan in current perspective is part of a wider energy transformation strategy and support not only energy generation, but also modern elements, such as energy storage. The lending period for both instruments is the same, with a maximum of 15 years. And the current maximum loan amount is right now lower because it is 2.3 million euros, and the previous it was 3.5 million euros. It's worth noting that the new RES loan offers new preferences Preferences are given to projects that incorporate the use of energy storage or hybrid systems powered by at least two different renewable energy sources. And additionally, limits on the installation capacity for biomass and biogas has been introduced. In my opinion, these are the main differences between two products.
Thank you very much, and all the best for this continuation of the RES loan, and wishing you the full absorption as well as in the first perspective. So Kornelia, Joanna, Ewelina and Andrzej, thank you very much for sharing all these insights with us. This was all very interesting.
Thank you for the opportunity to share our experiences. I hope our insights are useful for others.
And also big thanks from Brussels. See you next time, or hear you next time.
We are always happy to share our experience with the 2014-2020 RES loan.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and we are always very happy to share feedback from the 2021-2027 implementation with all of you.
And a big thank you, dziękuję bardzo, also to all our listeners for tuning in today to this episode of FICOMPAS Gemception podcast. I hope that this podcast was useful and inspiring for all of you. And for all of you who would like to know more about the 2014-2020 RES loan implemented in the Pomorskie region in Poland, we'll link our case study about this financial instrument in the transcript of this episode. If you have any questions, we encourage you to get in touch through our email, contact@fi-compass.eu. We look forward to hearing from you, and until the next time, goodbye or do widzenia.